Hey, today's live is all how to cultivate more physical, more emotional, more spiritual, more experiential, and more intellectual intimacy into your lives and elevate your relationships to whole new levels. Hey, this is davidtswood. I have trained over 1 million students on 5 continents, and I have dedicated the last 20 years of my life to helping people break through their fears, embrace change, and lead extraordinary lives and extraordinary relationships. So welcome to this live. I can see you all pouring in. In you come. And I will just say I am really excited. There's been so many great questions. I am actually using the 2 cameras here. So I'm going back from Facebook to Instagram, backwards and forwards. I got them pretty close. However, I'll do my best. I'll have one eye there and one eye there. Hey, Mary Bacon from Australia just joined. Tell me where you're coming in from. I can see people are pouring in again. There's some waves coming in. Hey, Siv again. Listen, this is very, very humbling. I've got to be honest with you. Now, I can't see on Facebook, so I can't tell who's coming in. I'm not sure why that is. We got Grace coming in, Grace Dakota, Suzanne, hello from Ohio. Hi, Suzanne. Thank you so much. You've asked some great questions this week. And by the way, yes, I'm the guy that reads every single comment on Instagram and Facebook, and I answer you personally, because otherwise I feel like it's a one-way conversation. Today is all about relationships, all about intimacy. And Perth is on the house. Look at that. Colorado's in the house. Gold Coast, Australia's in the house. Look at this. This is awesome. Thank you so much. Westchester, Pennsylvania. Hey, Wolf, how you doing? We got Czechoslovakia. Woo! Germany. Look at that. We're coming from all over Alabama. I love that. BC. There's someone from BC, from my own hometown. Now, I hope I'm live. I wonder, Aster, if you can just check that it is going live. It looks like it's live on Facebook. So maybe just give me a little thumbs up so I know that's going. I'm just letting people pour in. Again, today is about how to cultivate more physical. Listen to these words. More emotional, more intellectual, more spiritual, and more experiential. Some of you don't know what that means. Intimacy, so we can elevate our relationships to a whole new level. Hey, UK's in the house. Ottawa's in the house. Look at this. Oh my goodness, they're pouring in from all over. There's 61 people already, 63. It's just going up and up and up. Thank you so much. I want to say though, that, learning is something, it's a lifelong quest for me. And, I just want to thank some people before we get started. I mean, people are still coming in. So, by the way, if you were here last week, put some hearts in there so I know that you're here for the second time, because we went 1 hour and 6 minutes and I can't believe that people, yep, you're waving. Thank you, Megan. Sweden's in the house. Look at this. Oh my goodness. People are coming from all over the world. I'm very, very excited. But I want to thank some of my coaches. I've had some incredible relationship coaches and coaches. And I want to thank 2 in particular. Satya and Raja really taught me about polarity, the idea about, that masculine energy and, not just masculine, but masculine heart and balls, those 2 energies. So polarity being such an important, New Zealand's in the house, New Orleans in the house. Wow. But I want to thank Satya and Raja for that. And he also really taught me about, how to ask friends, people that are really close to you, about your relationships to get the real truth. Because quite often, if you've ever been around someone who's in a relationship and they shouldn't be in it. If you've ever had that experience, just put a 1 in there or 2 or whatever, just put a number in there so I can see. There's hearts pouring in. Thank you. So also Beth Hanaszewski. Beth is a great relationship coach. Some of you know her. And, she really talked about the importance of safety, how a man like myself can create safety in a relationship so that the relationship is just more succulent and open and sensual and like that, right? That's exactly. Oh, there's the numbers. Thank you. Facebook is not working. Oh my God, what's going on with Facebook? I don't know. It says it's live. I apologize. So here we go again. We'll figure that one out. I do apologize for Facebook. Can somebody go over there and just let them know that we are over here? I do apologize again. That's twice. So I want to start by saying that Kelly McCarthy, she commented this week on Instagram. And there's that old adage that says, life is happening to me or life is happening for me. And what she said was, hey, you know what? Life is happening as me and through me. And I think if you really listen to the subtleties of what I'm saying there, I know it's early and you're just settling in, but happening as me. In other words, I create this life. And I think about the word intimacy. Into me I see. Into me I see. And so whatever intimacy I'm experiencing on the outside has to begin on the inside. And you hear me talking about this all the time, the power of what happens on the inside. So Kelly, thank you for that. And it really struck me that life is happening as me and through me, not just to me, right? So I create this world. I create the relationships, and taking personal responsibility is something we will talk about. But I started last week with an ancient Greek quote. I'm going to start this week again with Socrates. He said this, he says, wisdom comes to each of us when we realize how little we truly understand about ourselves, about life, and about the world around us, right? And so I think that some of you have come on here to learn something, but I actually think I had to learn how to unlearn. Some of the things I thought to be true just weren't true about relationships. And again, I want to apologize if you're on Facebook. I don't know. It says it's live. No idea what's going on. I do apologize. I should have done that test, right? So again, today we're talking about how to cultivate more physical, emotional, intellectual, experiential, and spiritual intimacy and elevate our relationships. Before we do, though, look at this. I got a little piece of paper. And what I did is I took some of the questions that have come up this week around relationships, but I just wanted to do a little sort of think back. There were lots of feedback from last week. We did this whole hour on change, and I just want to read a couple of the takeaways from last week. And if you haven't watched that one on change, honestly, the feedback's been fantastic. Go back or tag some friends or let people see that. But Jenny Knoxrock, she said she's committed after watching last week to look at each situation through a brand new lens and start to discover and look for the hidden gems. So thank you, Jenny. I really love it. AJ McDonald said this. She says that she woke up after listening to that and she said that she just decided, listen to this, she decided that she had new choices today and she was going to live from this new place of choices. And then Christina Estev, we met in Estonia just a few weeks ago, Christina. She lives in Barcelona. She said that every piece of last week's call, she actually used with her coaches. She sent it to all of her coaches. So thank you. And Monica, Cecilia, this is what she did. It was fantastic. Monica, she actually went downtown. She normally gets frustrated with traffic. She gets frustrated with parking. She normally, when she meets her friends, anyway, what happened was she absolutely changed everything she did. And she had a remarkably different experience. She showed up with a light energy. She wasn't frustrated by anything. She was accepting the change that happened. So with that being said, we're going to get into the relationship conversation. There were a few tips that were given to us by some of you listeners there. Rachel Barber, she was talking about treating her partner and daughter as if it's a brand new relationship. She said that she tends to treat strangers with more attention and kindness than she does people she's familiar with. So she said one of her tips is to imagine it's a brand new relationship and come at it with that curiosity. So thank you, Rachel. I've only got a few of these. Jeff Boris, this guy's obviously got a great marriage. So listen to what he just said here. Very, very beautiful share, Jeff. He says, he talks about how he continually pursues his wife and how she continually pursues him. How fantastic is that? That sounds so sexy there, Jeff. Spanky, she talked about self-love and honoring the temple she lives in. And then Lynn McDonald, she asked about the separation between essence and ego. But here's the two questions I'm going to focus on for a second. One came from Carol Evans and one came from Suzanne Knight. Carol said that she has been, how to be vulnerable. She was married for 30 years and is struggling to move forward after a marriage. And then Suzanne Knight, 26 years off the relationship market when her husband died when she had 2 small children. And she told her mother that night that she never wanted to feel that pain again. Imagine that. So we're going to get into that in a little bit here. But first, I'm going to read you a little bit of a poem from Theodore Roosevelt. And I want you to think about this, Carol, and I want you to think about this, Suzanne. And then I'm going to get into some stories about what I've learned about relationships, because I'll be honest with you, this was a journey for me. It wasn't a natural journey. I had to learn like some of you. And hopefully, as we share more and more together and we start talking about these things, we can all learn from each other. But listen to this. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong person stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the person who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again, who knows the great enthusiasms and great devotions. So the reason I said that is this, Suzanne, and Carol, about getting back, having the courage to get back in the arena, and that we don't learn relationships just from books. We've actually got to be in it. We've got to have that willingness. So as we step into it, as I share some of the things that I've learned over these years, I'm 61, getting up for 62 soon, and I want to share the lessons I've learned. By the way, if you're enjoying this already, if you're getting interested by the subject, put some hearts in there for me so I can tell that you're all there. You're all enjoying it, right? It's very, very challenging to talk one way. I'm used to having that feedback, but there's lots of waves going on. I'm sure that means the same as hearts. But I want you to think about that. And for those of you, because I think of the different types of people on this live, some of you are in great relationships, but there's more. You know that you want more, or you're holding back. Some of you are out of the game, and I'm not sure how to get back in. Some of you have been hurt and are sitting on the sidelines because of that fear or that hurt, right? Oh, hello, Robin, again. It's lovely that you're here. And Caroline, it's good to see you. All right. So there's lots and lots of different reasons why you're here. But the idea of being in the arena, getting back in the arena, the succulence of what intimacy really is, and a journey, whether you're a guy listening in, and I'm really proud of you guys for being here, or there's a lot more women, obviously, because this is a subject that they really this is a most important subject for all of us. But let me tell you where I started, because it wasn't an auspicious start. I had very, very low trust of women. I grew up, and my mom may be actually watching from UK. My mom and I had a very, very hard relationship when I was leaving home, 15, 16. I love her deeply. Hi, Mom. But it was tough. And so I had real trust issues, and I was very, very, very closed. And what happened was I was dating a girl that's slightly older than I was. And she just she'd been down the road a little bit, and she knew something I didn't know. And she could see that I was adventurous, that I was, masculine, and I was, there's these kinds of things. But guess what? The intimacy part, the guard I had on my heart, I've been traveling around the world for 10 years, right? And she whispered in my ear, it was more, but she said, hey, she says, no, she says, if you really want to have real relationships, she said, you probably got to go back and have some conversations. Because at that time, I hadn't spoken to my sister in years. Her boyfriend didn't want me to talk to her. My brother hadn't spoken to me for like 6 years. My mom and I were clashed. We weren't talking. So it was really a tough thing that I was just so closed. Anyway, she said something to me that changed my life. She said, but when you go back, when you talk to them, remember why you're going. Where you're going is to let go, because I was holding on to so much anger and so much resentment and so much, all of these toxic kind of feelings inside. I was holding on to them. She said, when you go back, 2 things. She said, first of all, don't expect anything to change. Don't expect anyone to say, I'm sorry. Don't expect them to say, oh, this really happened. Just share where that pain is and share with them, but you let it go. Take it out of you and let it go. All right? So, by the way, one of the themes of today is hearts heal, hearts heal. So I did. I go and I do this thing, and thank goodness she told me about not expecting anything to change. Expectations are the enemy. I'm like, oh my gosh, you know what? People are denying. Here I am walking around the world with this anger and this, this closed heart. And when I shared what really I felt had happened through my eyes, through my perspective, they're like, no, people are nothing, no apology, no nothing. Thank goodness I do that in advance. But here's what happened. When I got back to Canada, I fell into a sickness. Now I want you to really listen. Everyone, again, listen to this. This for me was life-changing. It's hard to describe. It's graphic, but it really is life-changing. So I get back and I fall into this sickness. I'd been holding on to this tension for years and years, in anger and hatred and all the things I thought were true. And suddenly I fall into this sickness. And there is from every part of my body, my ears, my nose, everywhere else. But what's coming out is like black and toxic. I mean, how can it, I don't even know where it came from. But I was so sick, I couldn't move, I couldn't eat. And it's almost like I was letting go of something and giving up something. And it was absolutely life-changing. And thank goodness she had the strength and the will and the wisdom to share with me, hey, Dave, you know what? Maybe nothing will change. But what did change was I started to practice something. Immediate forgiveness. I started to practice something where things didn't stick inside me. I realized after witnessing what had come out of my body that stuff was stuck. These negative energy. And what's that old saying? I love it. It's like, holding on to hatred or holding on to anger or holding on to any dark energy is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die, right? And what was happening now is I was getting good at letting things pass through. I wasn't taking things personally, right? So they were passing through. However, I was still struggling with the area of, by the way, let's have a little check-in. If you're getting something from this, or if you've been in a situation where you feel like you're holding on to something, maybe you've held on to anger or with family or with an ex-lover or an ex-partner or, that you're carrying around. Imagine you're carrying around some hurt with you. Then just put some, there you go. Robin says, oh my God, anger can kill you on the inside. That's Mrs. Awesome, right? Yeah. All right, 100%. I can't see some of your names there. Lynn, powerful, awesome. Yeah, this again, I know that this is, for me, is a one way. I want to keep doing this. I want to train on this stuff, but from a personal perspective. What did I learn and how did I learn it? So here I am. I'm things aren't sticking. I'm not taking stuff personally. I'm flowing through life easily. But guess what? Vulnerability is something I'm like, right? I mean, because I had a massive distrust. Right? I'd been let down. I thought I'd been let down. Mom, if you're there, I love you, right? By my mother, by my sister. I made up all these stories, right? I am a story creating machine, right? And nothing has meaning except the meaning I'm giving it. And I'm giving this stuff meaning, right? So, but vulnerability, if we look at what it means, it's showing up and being seen, which is impossible if we're terrified about what people are going to see and think about us. So think about that. So vulnerability is showing up and being seen. However, it's impossible if we are terrified about what people may see or what they may think about us. We've got that gremlin mind. If you've got a gremlin mind like mine, again, mine's quieter these days because I work hard at this, but your gremlin mind, I'm not good enough, maybe I'm not worthy of love, or maybe he doesn't love me or she doesn't love me. That gremlin mind where there's that kind of little seeds of doubt. If that's something that goes on in your mind, let me see, make some, hearts are easy because I think all the waves, perfect. Okay. So what I found was that I was a recovering perfectionist. So for me, here I am. Yeah, I've let go of this energy, but I'm a perfectionist and vulnerability is terrifying because suddenly I'm going to have to actually tell some truth. And I spent my whole life, I don't know if you're like me, but telling the truth was not a safe place I ever found. And so I was a very, very, very good liar. So, but again, this vulnerability, what I'd realized was that I believed I wanted to have both. I wanted to have balls. And again, if that's crude, I don't mean it to be, but strength, grittiness, masculinity, that kind of, that and heart, intimacy, softness, vulnerability, openness, truth. And to me, this was a quest. It wasn't even, but I didn't know how to do it. It wasn't easy. Every time I started to get hurt again, I would be triggered about something I'd done in the past, boom, and the whole door would close. It wasn't immediately going to happen. But let me tell you something. If you're interested in understanding why sometimes we end up picking the wrong people or we end up dating people that are not good for us, if you want to hear why that really happens in the brain, you know what I'm like. I'm always talking about the brain, what goes on in the brain. If you want to hear what happens and why you're with someone and they're the wrong person, then put some hearts in there and I'll tell you exactly what goes on in the brain and why we end up often with someone and we can't pick up the red flags. We can't see that the guy is not the right guy or the girl's not the right guy. Do you want to hear it? Put some hearts in there and I'll tell you how it works. This is like, oh my God. Yeah, there you go. Give me some hearts. There you go. Thank you. All right. By the way, I'm enjoying this. I'm going to get better at it. I just, I feel like I'm on a one-way street here. But so first of all, you meet someone and you start that kind of like, Guess what goes up? Dopamine goes up. These feel-good neurotransmitters go up. So now we're under chemical attack again. Dopamine goes up, right? And we start feeling a little closeness. The mirror neurons start getting fired in the brain. Remember, this is the brain doing it to you. And you start to notice, mimic them. It's cute, that kind of thing. And then the brain releases these feel-good transmitters, and that boosts your mood, right? This is all going on. So it's like biological fireworks. Listen, this is so important to get this. So again, dopamine's gone up. We've got biological fireworks going off in the body. The heartbeat's racing. You got sweaty palms, adrenaline. So there's a little flushed cheeks, little anxiety, little stress, passion, all these things. Maybe getting a little horny. Can you say that on a live? I'm not even sure. But guess what goes up? The love hormone, which is oxytocin. Oxytocin's now going up, and the feeling of connection is there. And there's a thing, it's called nari purnerum. I can't remember what it's called. But there's another thing that goes up, and it's crazy. But here's what goes down. Listen to this, it's so important. The amygdala, which is responsible for making critical assessments of people. So here we are, we're in this love state. Dopamine's going up, right? Oxytocin's going up. But the amygdala, whose job it is to protect us and notice if the guy or the girl is wrong or the red flags are going off, oh my gosh, it switches off. This is why this happens. So you're in this situation, other people can see it, and tell me if this is true, everyone. If you've ever been in a situation where you've got a friend who's dating and you absolutely know the person's wrong for them, you absolutely know it, they're wrong for them, they can't see it. If they've ever had that happen, then put something in here, like let me know, put a 2 in there or something, or a wave, that's fine. I'm going to get better at this. I've got to go on more lives so I know what to push, right? Give me some answers there, right? So imagine you're in this state of euphoria, right? Your serotonin now is going down, and that affects your eating and anxiety, but you can't see what's in front of you. You can't see that potentially this is the wrong person for you, right? You feel like a superhuman. And by the way, what I was reading about this, I read a study on sex. So how many of you are in a beautiful, thriving relationship, right? But this was a recent study done on people that had been married for between 10 and 30 years, all right? And what they were saying was that when they do the readings of the brain of these people, they can see that they're still madly in love. But guess what falls off? Their sex life starts to wane and fall off. And what it says in the study was this, which I found remarkable. It's because they're out of practice. Kids come along, this happens, that happens, life gets in the way, and you just get out of the habit. So again, if you want to have a really beautiful, sensual sex life, and you've been married for years and years and years and years, they said it can be reignited. This is part of the study, that you can get it back. How great is that, right? So here's the thing that one of my coaches taught me. So I'm going to give you a few of my takeaways. First of all, I had to let go. I had to go and get rid of the crap inside my body. And by the way, some of you may not be able to do that. You may not be able to go and fly and talk to your family. But I had one of my one-on-one clients recently who was in a really bad way and had some really bad things happen to her. And so I got her to write a letter to them. And she was never going to send it. It was cathartic. She just wanted to get what was holding her back. And she was, again, in a very, very dark place. And she just wrote everything out. And she ended up burning this thing. And now, her life is vibrant. I watch her on social media. It's absolutely beautiful. So don't think because you may not be able to talk to someone that you can't let go. You can do it in any way you want. I like the writing, saying everything. It doesn't have to be polite or pretty. You can burn the sucker. You can plant a tree over it. But there's ways to let go. So first of all, I had to let go. Secondly, I had to make a choice about vulnerability. Did I want to be this tough guy that was terrified to let someone into my heart? Or would I be willing to do the work? So then what happened was this. There was a relationship coach called, I was with my ex-hubby for 19 years. Our sex life was the best part of our relationship. That was so strong, but wasn't. We got divorced. Sorry about that. So she had great sex, but the friendship wasn't there. So we want both. We want it all, right? If you want it all, if you want an incredibly sensual, sexual, lovely, lovely love, and you want a great friendship, if you want it all, yeah, put a heart in there, because that's what we deserve, right? But what Satyan said to me, and this is really important, is whoever you're most authentic with, what friend you're most authentic with, go to them and ask them to be completely honest with you and say to them, hey, how's my relationship? Is this a good relationship? And I do this now because your friends can see. And again, knowing now how the amygdala works and it switches off and we don't always have the most common sense things that say love is blind, then asking your friend just to tell you and now don't get upset with them if they say, because how many times have you had this happen where somebody you know separates and you go, yeah, we knew. We always knew, right? We always knew. So that's the second part, or the second part is the hunt for vulnerability. For me, which is about truth. Vulnerability for me was not just the balls in the heart. It was actually being man enough to learn how to tell the truth, which is also about my feelings, about my emotions, about my heart, about my fears, right? Because again, when you come through a lot of, ups and downs, sometimes they're really, really prevalent, right? The other thing I was doing was dating by chance. This is a big one, guys. This changed my life completely, right? Dating by chance, which means like proximity. You bump into someone at a bar or there or, on a boat, and suddenly, there's some energy there and you're dating by chance. But then I'm in a relationship and I'm unhappy, and it's a significant relationship. And again, I'm looking for answers. I don't know why I'm so unhappy. And so part of the relationship coach's advice was to go away and be alone and do a T-chart. Pluses and negatives, and start to look at a few things and look at, for example, what were my non-negotiables? I never even thought about it. I never thought that I could decide to do some work and figure out what was the relationship that I wanted and what did I want in my non-negotiable list? What did I not want? So it took me 3 days. I went up to Big White Ski Hill. I did this. And here's some of them. I'm going to give you a few. One of them was consistency. Consistency. I wanted to be in a relationship that was consistent, not up and down and not, volatile, but consistent was really important because I'm a pretty happy person, right? The other one was this, that my friends and my family had a relationship that was separate to mine and together. In other words, that my friends and family loved her like I love her, and they have their own relationship, which is exactly how it happens. They text her, she has her own thing going on, my family love her, right? But that was another one that was a non-negotiable for me, right? I wanted to live in a relationship where I could tell everything that was in my mind. I didn't want to have to hide anything, and I have a crazy mind. If you knew what went on in here, some of you think I should get locked up, but I wanted my partner to know that I didn't want any corners hidden, right? So, and freedom. I wanted to have time alone. I wanted to be able to go off and go on the boat for a month and not feel like we can't be apart and together. We can't be apart and we're not. And I wanted someone who would grow with me. So this was the list I started to make. Here's what I learned. As I was making the list, it was like, hold on, this list is about me too. If I want to attract that person, I got to be that person. So I started looking at my non-negotiable list and saying, well, hold on a sec. This is how I want to start working more at being really consistent. I want to make sure that I'm in love with her friends and her family, regardless if they're the crazy ones. And she's got a couple of crazy ones. She's watching right now. Asked her to tell me the truth. A couple of crazy ones, but loving them. Because she does, right? That I will take that on and not you. How many times have you been around a couple where, oh yeah, I don't really like them, as opposed to being in love with to make that easier, right? And so what I realized was I took this list on, but what it did for me was in the relationship I was in. And again, if you're enjoying this, just put a heart in there so I know you're following along. I know people jump on and off, but listen to this, life-changing. I didn't know I could choose out of a relationship or into it. I didn't know that once I realized that the non-negotiables were, and I said, well, hold on, am I in that relationship? Am I showing up that way? Am I giving it all? Whatever. So I ended up ending that relationship based on this work. And what was interesting was I learned another lesson was that, and for you girls there, the two ladies, Suzanne and Carol, right? You talk about, not wanting to get hurt again. Remember the heart heals. And that pain, there's lots of different pain, but what I realized was that what if I could have an elegant separation based on two people maybe being together? Because some of you may be with a partner right now, and maybe, this is either you're going to leave here and want to get to a 10. I always think, how do I get to a 10? In fact, one of the goals that we set as a relationship, and this would be something great for all of you, is if you imagine who are the greatest lovers on the planet or the greatest partners on the planet? Well, who are they, and how do we beat that? What's wrong with that as a goal? Just a goal, right? So can you speak more slowly? Oh, sorry. Yes, I can speak more slowly. I apologize. So But what I realized was that I'm in a relationship that's not working. The non-negotiable list is there. And it's not that that person's bad, because that's what I didn't know, that I could be with someone and it could be over or could be thinking about without them being bad and it being wrong or me regretting being with them. Because I thank every single person, all three of them, sorry, but thank every person I've been with for the lessons they've taught me. And I mean, and apologize for some of the things I've done inadvertently or done overtly. So imagine this. So I'm in a relationship and it's substantial, 3 years. And we sit in a hot tub and we talk. I asked the question, I said, hey, what do you want your life to look like in this relationship? How do you want it to look? And she told me everything she wanted. And then she asked me and I told her everything I wanted. And it looked like this. It looked like this. It wasn't like this. It was like this. There was things she wanted that absolutely I didn't want. And there was things. And then we talked about compromise. What if we compromised? And then at the end of it, 4 or 5 hours in, we said, what if we just separate as friends? What if we take what we have and move on and just allow ourselves to expand into our next relationship without fighting and hating? And that's exactly what happened. 2 days later, she left and we got a little house and boom, right? So learning that breaking up, it doesn't have to be dependent. I mean, again, if you're with someone, again, if you're not doing this work, but if you were to sit down and you're in a relationship, what do you really want? How? Because if you're unhappy, they're unhappy. And that's what I really, really learned, right? So but the no regrets, this is the most important, because to look back at a relationship with regret, whether you learned the good or the bad, remember, I brought myself to those relationships. So I was complicit in those relationships, whether I allowed someone to do things or whether I did them myself, right? So here's the big one, all right? I want you to get this, because I'm just being as transparent and as honest as I can be. These are my stories of things I had to learn, and I wasn't always good at them, and I'm still learning, right? Again, my girlfriend is listening right now. She's just downstairs, right? I had to raise my standards, and this is something I want you to think about. If you want to have, more physical, spiritual, intellectual, emotional, intimacy into me, I see, right? Then I realized that what if I was to raise my, how do I behave when no one else is around? Right? I work in an industry, some of you know, you're my students, right? Around beautiful women everywhere, and I've been doing that for 18 years. But how do I walk into that world with absolute integrity and never cross these lines? Never throw out an energy to that could be misconstrued. How do I live in that world? How do I raise my standards? How do I hold myself accountable? I mean, look, how many times do you see this where a guy, and guys, I'm not just getting on you, because you do it with girls, so I understand there's 2 of you, right? But guys will leave a long-term relationship and 5 minutes later they're in bed with someone. I mean, right? That was another thing I learned, by the way, is a mourning period. When you finish a relationship, how long? And again, with my significant relationship, I went an entire year without any contact with any woman whatsoever, because that's for me. I wanted time for myself. And again, jumping in and jumping out. So these are some of the things I learned. But raising my standards and my expectations and standards, I didn't realize that my expectations had been leading. My expectation that the other person, sorry if I'm talking fast again. My husband asks me every day, oh, that's so lovely. But the expectations, well, like my expectation that my expectation that they will versus what's my standard? How do I live by my standards and not by my expectations, right? So this was really, really important for me to start to have, it's like an honor or a code, a personal code as a man. And a code that if I am in a relationship, which I am, and I wish to have heart and balls, so that to protect and to be a shoulder, but to be vulnerable, to be soft, right? But to hold my standard, and which means that when the standard is either way, whether I'm dropping my standard for any reason or my expectations are completely out of whack, right? That I go back to that set of standards that I want to live by. So that there's a code between us, a lover's code. I mean, I've never used that term before. But here's the thing, going back to our ladies that asked the question. What I realized was this, my heart, my son Benny called me recently, and I think I've told this story recently. he's young and in love, and he was heartbroken. And I'm like, yes, I want him to be heartbroken, because I want him to learn that hearts heal. And they break and they heal. And we get to choose how long the gap is between a broken heart and a healing heart. There's 7.5 billion people on the planet, and you maybe been with one or two of them, and maybe you got hurt. But again, if we do these practices, right? But that heart healing, which is so exciting for Benny, he's like, Dad, I think I've cried all my tears. No. Sorry, buddy. No, you haven't. But guess what? I hope you do. I hope you realize that you can love better, bigger. You can go in to get devastated next time. Bring more of you next time, not less. So you've gone through this. So going back to our two ladies, Carol, 30 years. Bring what was great about that relationship and open yourself, but first time alone with your girlfriends. Find that, you don't need to be filled up by another person. Your relationship comes from the overflowing of the cup, not filling of the cup. I don't need someone to fill my cup. I want to give from my overflowing cup. So Carol and Suzanne, is the question of then, allowing yourself and wanting your heart to get broken again in an even bigger way, because you're going to bring more than you've ever brought. Not your fears and your doubts and your uncertainty, but your vulnerability, right? So I want to tell a story thus for Suzanne specifically, who prompted this question. I did a program for 4 years called Beyond Courage. If you ever went to Beyond Courage, you can put a heart in there. And I did a process in Beyond Courage, and the process went like this, and I wasn't sure about it the first year I did it. I did this thing where I wanted people to go outside and make a video that would be left in the event they die, that would be left for their loved ones to give them a final message. And people were a little bit strange about it in the beginning, first time I did it, and they went and they did this exercise. I was thinking, will I do it next year? I'm not sure. I knew it was the right thing to do. 3 months later, I get a call from this lady called Sandy. Her husband, Tom, had died. And I'm like, oh my gosh, but he was in this exercise. So he'd left this recording to her. And so of course I'm in communication with the family, and Sandy's telling me this story about how many times they've watched this video. Hundreds. And so next year I do the event. She shows up with her 2 grown children, and they're on stage and they show the video of their dad. And in the video, the dad is saying, hey, Sandy, and he shares his heart. He says, I'm gone. He says, however, he says, I know that you love intimacy and connection, and I want you to find another love, and I want you to live fully, and I want you to express that love. And he does this whole thing. And anyway, the kids are on stage. We're all crying. Now everyone's taking this pretty seriously, right? And so going back to you, Suzanne, the question around, 26 years, your husband passed away. If your husband had made that video and he knew that in the event of his death, what would he say to you? And I guarantee what he'd say to you is, hey, I want you to love again. I want you to squeeze the juice out of life. I want you to take life and I want you to hold it tight. And I want you to that's what people who love people do, right? And so this is a really great exercise, everyone, to think about what is the message you want to leave? So with that being said, I don't know if there's any questions coming in here, but I do want to go into, I talked about the physical, intellectual, emotional, experiential, spiritual. And I want to give you a couple of tips of what we practice or what we continue to practice and continue to learn. Some things that really add vibrancy to our intimacy. But before I do, I touched on my friend Beth Hanaszewski, and I'm not going to teach on this, although I could, or maybe I'll bring her onto one of my lives and have her teach for you. But this is something that's really interesting. We look at a female currency. And this is something I really got to learn, which was if I want my partner to be in her light feminine energy, because there's light feminine, there's a dark feminine, there's dark masculine, and there's light masculine. And a lot of women today run masculine energy because they're doing it all. You try and open a door for a woman. The other day, Esther and I were walking through the airport, and there's a woman carrying 4 bags. I'm like, hey, can I carry those for you? No. Because she's being all masculine. Gosh, let me do it. Let me carry. That's me on my white horse. I'm in a knight in shining armor, going to save you from that big bag of clothing, right? So, but the idea would be that we're always running these energies. But if I want my partner to live in light feminine, right, then there's a few things that she has to feel. And there are things that I can do personally to help her feel those things. I take personal responsibility for it, and it's safety. When a woman feels financially safe, physically safe, emotionally safe, spiritually safe, right? All these things then safety, and a feeling of protection and connection. Beth will call it her currency, a female currency, safety, protection, and connection. Then she moves into that light feminine energy. And there's nothing more sexy, guys, tell these women it's true, than having a woman in her light feminine energy, right, in your arms. It's just the sexiest thing on the freaking planet, right? However, again, most women run a lot of masculine energy right now because of that. Or if they're feeling in a relationship where it's not safe, right, then they will run into their dark feminine, bitchy, nagging, whatever, right? Or they'll run into masculine because they'll just try and take over, which again, you lose that sensuality, which I think is so, right? So I'm doing this part quick because I know that I want to get to these few tips for you for these things. If this is good, by the way, how do I feel safe? Was that a question? How do I feel safe? Well, again, safety is an interesting thing, right? If you're in a relationship where you feel emotionally safe, well, what do you think's happening? The conversations are there. You feel seen. You feel heard, right? Safety is there. When you don't feel safe, you move in. All I'm talking about is for me as a man is understanding that, and I've done this, where if I've made Asta feel unsafe in any way, she'll move into a different energy. And if I want her to be in that light, vibrant, beautiful energy, then I create safety, protection, and connection. Now, for me, for what Beth would say is currency for the guy is freedom, appreciation, and trust. Freedom, appreciation, and trust. So if I can feel that freedom, it's like, take the garbage out. She'll use that example. Now, I may be watching the game. Maybe I'll do it in 4 hours, but I'll take it out. But the idea that we can create safety, protection, and connection, and freedom, appreciation, and trust. And then we've got a man in his light masculine, and we've got a female in her light feminine, and we got some fireworks, right? And you talk about this. I don't know if you've ever been with someone who's maybe a little inhibited sexually, when they're in their light feminine and they feel absolutely safe, there is no inhibitions because there's absolute trust, all right? So to wrap this up, I'm going to go through a few things. This first one I love, and I've never taught this before. Asta and I were talking about this particular live. And so cultivating more physical intimacy. Listen to this one. Making love 24/7, 365. Now listen to what I'm saying. Wait. We got excited when I said this. Making love 24/7. So when I get up in the morning, or ask whoever gets up first, right? Whoever gets to the toothbrush first will put toothpaste on the other one's toothbrush, right? Or put the towel down on the floor for the shower, or put a fresh towel. So the idea is that making love is an extension of a connection. And when we live in a space where I am constantly looking for opportunities to do beautiful things for my lover, and she is the same, then the idea of physical intimacy is expanded when we are in that space. Again, and I'm talking about a healthy relationship. But if we look at physical, then making love 24/7, which is again, romantic. Romance. It's like what I love to do is create ambiance in a house. And I know that. Look, I've coached clients, and I coached a woman 6 months ago, and we're talking about her love life, and it was awful. And then I asked her to describe her bedroom, and there's laundry everywhere, and there's clutter everywhere, and it's almost like because they had kids, that was their sanctuary. They weren't able to go all over the house, which hopefully we can all do. And so we just changed a few things, and she put a little lock on the door, and she turned her bedroom into a sanctuary where they could go and be intimate and but that's a choice, creating an ambiance in that relationship to create more physical intimacy. And cuddles, again, I don't need to go through it all, but I just going to say that physical, the intellectual, listen to that. I love this one here. Different perspectives, opposing ideas, and debating without fights. That's that intellectual stimulation. So if I want to be intellectually stimulated, is that I could be in this relationship and have opposing ideas without actually fighting and learning from each other. Emotional. deeper introspective conversations, talking about emotions. I mean, this is telling the absolute truth, right? Here's a good one for emotional connection is transparency, is that being see-through and sharing vulnerability. Again, this is that emotional connection, right? Experiential. I love this one because this is something that we do a lot. It's like, planning bike rides together or planning, travel into places neither one of us have been. So we go on these adventures together. Or maybe for you, it could be running a marathon together. But creating experiential intimacy where you're, cooking. We love to cook. So she'll do a bit, I'll do a bit. But the cooking is essential experience. I know, like, if you've got kids and you're busy, I get it. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. However, I still want to make it special. I can still choose to create intimacy around that. And then spiritual is that idea of, sunsets or sitting in the hot tub and taking in beauty, faith, tantric. We could do a whole thing on sexual exploration. I think it's something that, and I'll say this to actually, because I'm going to close very soon here. You think about, if you've got young guys, I've got 2 boys, where do people learn how to make love? And where do they talk about it? I mean, I do male programs where I'll bring men up and we'll sit in a room and talk about it. And I know how many guys are confused. They learned something when they were 17 or 18. But there's this whole world of learning and exploration. And I just think that it's such a misunderstood arena to have sexual range where you can move from the tantric to the erotic and be in this sort of harmony of understanding. But we don't talk about it as a culture. Some cultures do. They're very, very open about sensuality and sexuality. But sadly, we're not. But I just think that as a challenge to each of you is to think about, maybe some of these things. If you're holding on to some stuff, is it time to let it go? And can you talk to people and let it go without expecting them to change? Or can you write something down and burn it and let it go? Can you explore vulnerability? Can you look for truth where you're living in truth? Can you raise your standards? Can you start thinking about how do I raise my standards? Not expecting your partner to, but you raise your standards, right? And that's lovely. She's saying she's been really open to my adult kids and they ask me anything. It's beautiful. Thank you so much. And this idea of your list, what is that list, that non-negotiable list about the relationship? And if a relationship isn't working, why not elegantly transition as friends? You once were. And here's another tip. I never talk badly about anyone I've been with, ever. Never. Don't do it. Just think about the 2 or 3 things that work, because at one point you were really connected to that person. But being able to transition out of relationships and open yourself up to new ones, right? And then making intimacy a quest. And if you talk to, even if you're single, by the way, I mean, look, guys, doesn't matter if you're single. This is amazing to start doing this work now and open yourself up to just the most joyous exploration. So, with that being said, call to action. I do have a couple of things this week. Would you please, I'm going to post this. Would you please just make sure you comment, takeaways, stuff that you're changing. I love reading all the things that people took away and actually utilized. And then just, tag some people, get some people involved in this. It's really lovely to see you. I really, really appreciate it. If you're enjoying the lives, then let me know. And if there's questions you have, you can DM me some questions with regards to anything. I can talk about anything. And if I don't know, I'll tell you. And I'll bring somebody on who knows. But I've been living a long time and I've done a lot of stuff. So I have some pretty, a pretty broad mind with that. But let's get into these conversations more. Let's squeeze the freaking juice out of life and lead extraordinary relationships, not just with our significant other, but with people, strangers, everywhere. Light, living from our light, not our darkness, right? So I do apologize. This is twice I've messed up on Facebook. There you go. That's just the way it is. I appreciate you all, and I will definitely see you on the other side. Mwah. I'm going to read some of these. Love your lives. Thank you, David. Thank you for doing the lives. Thank you, Enriched Living. I wish their names were there. Terrific. Non-negotiable list. Good. The Kick-Ass Life podcast helped me life so much. Thank you for all you're giving. Thank you. Awesome. Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Craig. Suzanne, thank you. Suzanne, I hope you got your answers there, Suzanne. Love the lives. Living from life and squeezing the juice. Absolutely. This was amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much. Dean. Hi, Deanie. Thank you. Request to be in your video. Live video. Son sent a request. Thank you. Be the person you want to attract. Yes. All right. Well, there you go. Thank you so much, everyone. Always on. Now, I'll see you later.